Hi folks, today we're going to show you how to set up and rig a weighted slip float. First thing you're going to need is a bobber stop. The two stops that I like to use, one is a dog bone type stop, the other one is a little plastic rubber stop that works well. But I'm going to show you the advantages and disadvantages, and I'm going to first show you how to put that on a line. That's the first thing you're going to need to put on your fishing line. Okay, the dog bone bobber stop, what you do, you thread your line through one end. You can see it right there. Okay, my fingers are big, but anyway, you only loop it around one time around your bobber stop and back through the hole again, simply because a lot of times people will wrap it around 2 times and it'll cause your stop to twist your line. When you go up the line, your line will twist, and that's something that people don't like about this type of stop. The only other thing to remember about this type of bobber stop, you have to have a bead with a small hole, because a bead with a large hole will go right over top of the stop when you put it on. I'll show you what I mean. See how that bead stops right there on the bobber stop? That's why you need to make sure your bead has a small hole. But the advantages to this stop, as small as it is, it'll cast through your eyes real well. You can set your float at 20 foot deep and doesn't matter, reel this even onto your reel and it'll cast through your eyes. That's the advantage I like. That's one of my favorites. All right, folks, here's the other type bobber stop I like to use. The reason I like this particular one, it's elongated, it'll cast through your eyes. And it's not. They make another one that's round, that's same principle, but I like the elongated one. It just seems to work a little bit better. What I normally do, all you do is just basically put your line through the loop right there, and then you get your stop and you slide it toward the line, just like that, and you just keep pulling, steady pressure, pull it onto the line, as you can see right there, and then you just keep pulling a little bit more and on, and there it is, it's on your line. And this thing is really nice. It'll slide up and down your line, but the only thing, it still casts through your eyes good, so I like it. This is a good stop. And that's how you put that on. That's the first thing you put on when you're rigging a slip float, right there. Next item you're going to need is a bead. Your bead slides up and down your line, and that's what stops at your bobber. You get it. I use a solid glass bead. I like it real well because it has a small hole, small diameter. And this particular bead has a flat spot on each end, which is nice when it rests on your bobber. And so we got our bead and our bobber stop right there. Slide it up down the line, allow yourself plenty of room. Now, here's the next thing I want to show you. When you're putting your line through the float, you want it fairly straight, because if you have a big curl on the end and you go to put it in, when it goes down and hits that brass eyelet, it's hard to get through the float. Even with a straight line, there's a little bit of, I'll show you some tricks on getting it through there that'll help you out. But you always want your line, if it's got a curled part on the end, cut it off, and you want a fairly straight piece of line when you're going down through. What you do, you slide it in. You've got your bobber stop and your bead back here. You slide it in. Just keep sliding until you feel it. There it is. It's hitting down at the end of the float. What I do, I get my fingers and twist like that, and just keep twisting, and there it is. It goes through. But the main thing is have this straight, not curled on the end. And when you feel it, when it stops there, just start twisting back and forth, back and forth. It'll eventually find its way through. Okay, there we have it. We have our bobber stop and our bead. We have our float on there. The next thing we're going to need to do is rig up our sinker and our swivel and everything down at the bottom. What I like to do is put a thing called a sinker cushion on there. It's rubber and it's soft, and what it does, it protects the bottom of your float from your sinker. It gives it just a little bit of cushion. It's just a little shock absorber, basically, is what it is. It goes on. Then the next thing you want to put on is your sinker, your egg sinker. You go through, just thread it on. This sinker is particularly 3/4 of an ounce. Now, there you go, you're that far. The next thing you need to do, I have a soft rubber bead. This bead protects your knot on your swivel and your sinker. Everything has a cushion in between the sinker. You've got your sinker cushion, sinker, and this soft rubber bead. Okay, now the next thing that comes is your swivel. It doesn't matter to me what kind of knot you tie. I'm just going to use an improved clinch. It works well for me on this. Okay, there you go. Okay, here we are. Bobber stop, bead, float, sinker cushion, sinker, soft rubber bead. There you go. Everything's cushioned, should be working right. All right, the next thing I do is I cut my leader. Now this varies according to different fishermen, like different length leaders. If you're bottom bouncing, a guy may want a longer leader, even maybe a heavier weight. But anyway, let's just say rule of thumb, I'll go up here about that far, the length of the float, and I'll get my cutters, cut the float, the line going to the float to my leader. Then all I do is the other end that was loose, I just go back through again, tie improved clinch knot real quick, and then after you get your knot, all you'll have to worry about is your hook, is having the right size hook that you need, and that varies too for different fishermen. Some fishermen like a different size hooks. You know, this one right here would be a good one for what I would probably use. But you tie it on. Like I said, your leader length can vary. A lot of people like them maybe just the length of the float or a little longer, and some people like them really longer if they're fishing their float bouncing off the bottom, trolling they call it. But right there's the basic rig, and I'll go ahead and tie this hook on. I'm not even going to tie a snell. I'm just going to tie it just for grins to show you how the thing works total. But there again, your leader length is a lot of it's up to you on what you would like your length to be. One thing I have found out, that if you make your leader too long, sometimes when you cast, as the bait is going through the air, it'll come back and wrap and hook around your line up here if you have a long leader. If you make your leader just a little bit shorter, the length of this, sometimes if it's just about the length of the float, it's less likely to do that. But it just depends on what you're fishing for and your style of fishing, how long you want your leader. Okay, that's basically it. Right there, you've got everything you need to start fishing. And a lot of times on this right here, I don't usually leave a tail end of line. I usually go about 1/8 of an inch, type it off with a little bit of room in case the knot slips. All right, there's something I'd like to talk to you about. With our floats and our products, we came up with a kit with the proper, everything you just seen in the video before, the bead, the soft cushion, the swivel, sinker, bobber stops. What we've done, we've made a kit that'll match the float, the particular size that you're using. They'll have the proper amount of weight, and it has everything except the hook. The reason we didn't put the hook in, a lot of times, different fishermen like different size hooks, so we kind of leave that up to you. But when you buy our float, you just look for 10-inch big cat, 10-inch big cat, 10-inch big cat on the float. Pull this off the shelf, you have everything you need, and you won't have to hunt all over the store for all the components. Now, what I'm going to show you just briefly, it's all the same thing, just to illustrate. There's our 8-inch standard float, 8-inch standard kit. 6-inch stealth, 6-inch stealth float. We've even tried to color code them a little bit to where you'll be able just to pull off what you need very easily. And I've noticed that's a problem over the years. A lot of people will go in, and after they buy a float, they're looking all over the store trying to find, well, I need a bead, I need this, and they're all over the place and sometimes not sure what they do need. So these kits kind of solve that problem. And that's basically it. Also on the back, we have recommended sinker weights on our products. That way, if you don't buy the kit, you'll still be able to get the right size sinker for the size float that you have. That's a nice feature too, because that's confusing when you go in. You don't want to buy a sinker that's too big or too light. You want one that will balance this float out correctly, the right proper weight that it was designed for. Basically, it's all I'm talking about. So there you go. And if you have any questions or anything, you can just contact us at our email. It's aerofloatbga gmail.com, and check us out on Facebook. And thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.